Hello, brothers and sisters in the Lord. Welcome to Davao Alive Church. I hope and pray that you are doing well right now. And I know and I believe that God will going to do something in your life today as you listen to the Word of God and as you go with us or joining with us in worshiping the King of Glory. But before that, let us open our Bible here in Psalm chapter 41, verses 1 up to 9. The Word of God says here, "Oh, clap your hands, all you peoples. Shout to God with the voice of triumphs. For the Lord Most High is awesome. He is a great King over all the earth. He will subdue the peoples under us and the nations under our feet. He will choose our inheritance for us, the excellence of Jacob, whom He loves." God has gone up with a shout, the Lord with the sound of a trumpet. Sing praises to God. Sing praises. Sing praises to our King. Sing praises, for God is the King of all the earth. Sing praises with understanding. God reigns over the nations. God sits on His holy throne. The princes of the people have gathered together, the people of the God of Abraham. For the shields of the earth belongs to God. He is greatly exalted. The Lord blessed His word. Let us come into the throne of His grace in prayer. Our gracious and loving Father, thank you so much, Lord, for this wonderful time that you once again given to us, Lord, that we can worship you and we can be encouraged through your word, oh God. Thank you, God, that you would going to bless your people, Lord, as they listen to your word, as they join with us, oh God, in worshiping your holy name. May you continue, God, to empower them. May your presence, Lord, would fill their hearts and mind, oh God. Thank you so much, Lord, for what you are going to do in the lives of your people today. Thank you, God. I declare and I pray that you would bless them, Lord, from heaven, oh God. Thank you so much, Lord. All the glory belongs to you alone. In Jesus' name, amen and amen.
Guys, look at what's behind us. This is crazy. All the planets, the solar system, the galaxy. Whoa, it's so big. You know what I just thought of? I want to keep it for myself. I want to get one of the planets, you know? Does that sound good?
Yeah, I want Mars.
I want Jupiter. That sounds like fun.
Hey guys, you can't keep the worlds. They're not yours to take.
Yes, that's right. It says in Psalms 24 verse 1, "The earth is the Lord, and everything in it. The world and all its people belongs to Him."
So even when God gives me something, I now know that I should use it to glorify Him. It's not actually for myself. That's crazy. I didn't realize that, right, Mike?
I get it now.
Yes, that's
Everything's for God.
So if everything's for God, everything that we receive is actually for His glory.
It is.
That was our boogie skip for this week. We'll see you next week.
Bye!
Hey guys, Kuya Joey here,
Kuya Henry here. Pastor Gary here.
and we have a really fun reactionary game for Kuya Henry and Pastor Gary this
Yes.
week. But first, let's get into the memory verse, which is found in
Psalms 24 verse 1, and it says, "The earth is the Lord's and everything in it. The world and all its people belongs to Him."
everything and all the people belong to God, even
Yes.
this American football, and we're going to use it to glorify Him through our game, and we use everything to glorify God because it's not our own. So
Yeah.
keep that in mind as we get into this reactionary game. So firstly, let's talk about what this game is. This game is going to have someone sitting on that white pillar there, and I'm going to be throwing it to Kuya PG and Kuya Henry at different times to see who has the better reaction. They're going to be sitting with their arms crossed, facing away from me. I'll say go, and I'll throw the American football, and they're going to catch it and see who can react the fastest. Alright, let's get into it. PG will go first. He's going to sit down on this thing facing the opposite direction, and I'll be throwing the ball to him. at a random time he won't know, and he's going to sit with his arms crossed, come around and try and catch it before the ball hits the ground. Ready, QPG? Arms crossed. Go! You got it. You got it. That was round 1. Alright, round 2. I'm going to make it a little bit harder. Ready? We're going to do 3 rounds. Ready? Go! Okay, he's fast. Last round, last round. There we go. This is a little bit harder. Go! Oh, he's got it. QPG's fast. Alright, P. Henry, ready? Let's go, let's go.
I'm ready.
Arms crossed. I'm not going to tell you when. Go! Alright, again. Alright, ready. Go. Oh, he's got it. Alright. This is going to be tough, Henry. You ready?
Ready.
3, 2, 1, go! Oh, I threw it at his knees. Oh, I made that really tough for Henry. So, Pastor Gary is the winner of this challenge. Try it for yourselves. It's really fun. Try it with a chair. Try it with anything. We used a random pillar. But try it for yourselves. Send it down below.
Yes.
And we'll see you next week. Bye.
Hello and welcome to Davao Alive Church. I'm Pastor Wood and I'm so excited you've come to join us today. If you're not already aware, we are going through a mini-series on how to start and maintain good habits that lead to a life of significance. And we're going through the acronym of START. We went through significance, talents, availability, and today we're on the next R, which is resources, or in other words, our possessions, and how we are called to live generously with our possessions and resources that God has generously given to you and I today. So if you haven't heard the previous set of sermons, just check out the series. We'll probably put the links below in this video so you can follow along with us. But you are most welcome. So today, I want to talk about resources, or how to live generously with the possessions and resources that God has given or entrusted to you and I today. And if you think about it, God is our best example of generosity. He gave His one and only Son to you and I so that we could have that right relationship put back between God and man. And that is the truest sense of unselfish generosity. You can be generous when you want to get something back, or it can be a generosity that's expecting something of return. Jesus died for you and I, knowing that there was no way for us to repay. There was no way for us to give back. That is unselfish love. That is love that gives without needing something to come back. And that is what I want to talk about today. The very treasures, the very possessions, the resources that we have all been richly given. What are we to do with those? And how are you managing them in your life today? What I want to mention right from the onset is this: how we can move from a society that says this: what can I get? Give me, give me, give me, give me. The whole world is all about how can I gain? How can I get more? With kids, they're always expecting, aren't they? As a baby, what are you getting me for today? How are you going to feed me? How many? It's like, what can I get? I want us to move from that mindset to a kingdom mindset, which changes the what can I get to what can I give. That is a lifestyle that is birthed straight out, and that's an example through Jesus, the ultimate gift for all mankind. And now, with that in mind, I want you to think about your resources and your possessions. Start to look at them and kind of do like a heart check and say, am I more of a what can I get kind of guy or girl? Am I a professional getter? Or am I a professional giver? Am I an expert in getting and receiving more than I am an expert in giving? Now, Hebrews 13, verse 1 and 2 says this: keep on loving each other as brothers and sisters. Don't forget to show hospitality to strangers, for some who have done this have entertained angels without realizing it. Now, that's a wild scripture that says, hey, when you live generously, you never know who you're being generous to. That means that if they are strangers, those are people that you're not used to, we are meant to be generous to everyone. It's easy to be generous to your loved ones, but what about those that are strangers, those that you don't know so well? You see, our resources are given to us and have been entrusted to us for a specific reason, and we're going to see that in a moment. We need to understand right from the onset that it all belongs to God. And it says this in Psalm 24 in verse 1. The earth is the Lord's and everything in it. Not some things, but everything. Tanan. The world and all its people belong to Him. The world and all its people. That means all of us belong to God. All of us have been entrusted by God with certain resources. And when we look back at talents, look back at that sermon, you will see the certain talents and gifts that God has given us. But there is a purpose beyond ourselves. Good stewards are entrusted with more. We know that in the parables that Jesus talked about with the farmer and the seed and the talents and all of this. But today I want to talk about generosity with the possessions or the resources we've been given goes beyond even our bank account. So often people think when you live generously, it's just about money. It's about the ability to give out. Well, then that kind of rules me out. If I don't have money, I can't be generous. God has called all of us to be generous with everything. If everything belongs to God, today we're going to look at how that works out in our daily walk, in our every walk, in our every part of our lives. Our abilities and our talents are an offer to God regardless of where we came from. We have all been made by God for specific purposes. Our talents are ultimately for God's glory. You can look at this in the previous sermon on talents. You can use your skills, your gifts, your talents, etc. for God's purposes and not our own. This is part of the resource richness that everyone has, regardless of where you live, what you've been brought up in, if you're rich, if you're poor financially, emotionally, physically, spiritually. God is saying, I've given you everything that you need. You are called to be an overflow. So what does it mean to live generously with our possessions and our resources today? Let me read this out of Hebrews chapter 13. In fact, read the whole chapter of Hebrews 13. It's powerful and it'll give you insight into how we are to live generously in light of the gospel. But this in verse 16 says this, and don't forget to do good and to share with those in need. These are the sacrifices that please God. Don't forget to do good and to share with those in need. That means that we're not always just looking at our own needs. We should be aware of those around us because we all have the tools and the gifts and the talents and the resources available to not only make our lives better, but to enrich others. Christ died for us. Even when we didn't deserve it, our resources are to make God famous in our lives today. Remember, the earth is not our home. Again, if you read a little earlier in Hebrews 13 and verse 14, it says this, for this world is not our permanent home. We are looking forward to a home yet to come. You see, so often we're building for a home here on earth, we lose sight of the eternity. We're building for something that won't last. God is saying you have been built with eternity in your heart. That's why nothing here on earth can truly satisfy us. That's why man will constantly be chasing for things that come and go. Those resources, those possessions, those things that you can grab for in life today. What can I get? Give me, give me, give me, give me, rather than what can I give? That's the mentality of a mature Christian, of a Christ follower, a Christ disciple, always looking to give from even your lack today. Because God will never be outgiven. Jesus spoke in parables 39 times, right? And almost 1/3 of those parables that he spoke were all about possessions and money. Almost 1/3 of them. Why do you think that is? It's because he knew the lure and the potential pitfalls that possessions and money can have on our hearts. We could end up with a split heart. We can't serve both the possession master and God himself. So we have to make sure that today when you're looking at the blessings in your life or whatever you're chasing after, you've not lost sight of God himself in the chase for that possession, for that need to be filled. You can almost live life in worship of that possession, in worship of that gift instead of worshiping the gift giver. So just pause for a moment as I'm speaking today. Have you been falling into a potential trap of worshiping the gifts that God has given you, the possessions, or chasing after it? Have you seen a dog chasing its tail? Never quite gets to it. They're going in circles. It is funny to look at. But unfortunately in life, if you're doing that and chasing things that don't last, that's what we end up looking like, running around in circles, never getting anywhere. So we're not called to store up treasures here on earth where moth and rust destroy, but we're meant to store up treasures in heaven. So how much, let me ask you this, how much of your life is wasted currently right now, because this is what the Bible should do. It should shine a light in our hearts, pursuing earthly possessions and treasures. How much of your time and your motivation and your habits, that we're talking about habits, right? What are your habits pointing to? How much of it is a time waste just to store up treasures here on earth that moth and rust destroy? We've lost sight of eternity, the very thing that we were made for. God has put eternity in the heart of man. And by the way, there is no excuse for any of us. Doesn't matter whether you were born in a rich country or a poor country, a rich family or poor family. We all have something we can give right now, right here today. And giving, as we'll understand in a moment, takes exercise. It takes a working out. It takes a mental, just like when you go to train, you have to decide with your heart, mind, and your body. You have to train hard to become generous, because our flesh ultimately never wants to be generous. It only wants to serve itself. So today, I want to just ask you this question. If you think, well, I thought generosity was just about giving, tithing. I tithe 10% of my money to the church, or I'm gifting this, but you know what? God is saying give of, and you can say, well, I don't have any more to give. How about the clothes on your back? How about clothes in your closet? How about the household goods? How about your talents? Maybe you're a good carpenter. Maybe you're a good welder. Maybe you're a good electrician. Maybe you can paint somebody's house. Maybe you're good at cleaning. There are all these resources, these talents and gifts that all of us have. There is no excuse here today to say, I can't be generous because I don't have. That's a me mentality rather than what can I give. You're saying, well, no, I can't give unless I get first. See, that's not love. So as you look at your possessions, as you look at your resources here on earth, I want to ask you this question. And I want you to solemnly ask the Lord this. Because sometimes if somebody says, are you willing to give what's in your hand today? Something that you feel is a precious possession, and that person needs it. Give to those in need. Brothers and sisters, love. Don't forget to do good and share with those in need. That's what it says, right? These are the sacrifices that please God. Let me ask you this question. As you look at your possessions, whatever you own, if God was to ask you, give that to that person in need. I want you to invest in that life, in that ministry, in that family, in that individual or couple, whoever it is, and you're finding it hard to let go. Could it be that your possessions are owning you rather than you owning your possessions? Let me say that again. Do your possessions own you? Do your resources own you? Do they dictate how your heart operates in generosity or lack thereof? Or do you have possession or control over your resources yourself so that you can dictate and say to it, this is for the glory of God and for His kingdom and not for my own? You see, the more we give, the less hold money and possessions has over our hearts. When we live a generous lifestyle, it becomes easier and easier to become generous because they have a less hold on our lives. You see, we can't fully appreciate God's generosity to us by giving His Son until we start to practice a generous lifestyle of giving to those that have no way of giving back. Until you give to somebody that has no way of giving you any return, it's very difficult to begin to understand what God's love did for you and I today. Jesus gave when we couldn't repay anything. And in fact, we didn't deserve any of it, and yet He gave it. So with that in mind, how can you change the way you love those around you? How can you change your loving for others into a love that is not self-seeking, like it says in 1 Corinthians 13? Love is patient, love is kind. We all know this, but it says love is not self-seeking. Are you only generous when you can receive back? Are you only kind in your generosity and your overflow when you can get something back? I want to ask you that question, because if you can't answer that clearly, then we need to look at the patterns in our lives today that can help us to become more generous in our lifestyle. You see, what you meditate on, what you're looking at, if you're constantly looking at the rich and the famous on TV and on the networks around, and you're constantly meditating on how they live, the bigger the houses they have, the cars, the rich and famous, or whatever, you're going to start to meditate on the possessions that they have and start to look at what you need and what you want and what you're lacking. See, God is saying, don't look at the things here on earth. I want you to focus on things in heaven. What you desire is what you end up pursuing. So what you're pursuing starts to transform and change the very things you desire in your motives in your life, your thought processes. There are even studies that show this, that those that live in generosity, their blood pressure lowers. There's been studies, you can look at this up online. It reduces anxiety, it makes marriages better, it extends lives, and just makes us happier overall. A generous lifestyle has a dividend that goes beyond the physical. It starts to affect our soul, our very health, our very nature, in our marriages, in our families, and in ourselves. Rarely does anyone who has become poor because they lived a generous life. You see, wealth is gained not just in possession, but in peace, in righteousness with God, with joy that comes from the Lord's presence. Remembering that we can never outgive God. For Rosie and I, we could talk about testimony after testimony about God's faithfulness when we've been in lack. And so often when we've been in lack, God has said, give more, give deeper. I remember a season not too long ago when we didn't have money to put our kids through school. And we have our Adopt a Stepchild program as part of our church and our missions and outreach where we sponsor kids. And God said, I want you to take on however many that church says that they have. And they said they have another 30 kids that need sponsorship. And we're like, 30 kids, God, we need help. I can't even send my own kids to school. But he said, believe and invest. And so we believed in prayer, we invested, and we fasted. And guess what? In that story, as God provided for those kids through that faith venture, he then provided for our family in a miraculous way. Somebody just called and said, I want to support your kids in education. And we were like, wow, God is faithful. You can never outgive a generous God. Acts 20 and verse 35 says this, and I have been a constant example of how you can help those in need by working hard. Remember that key word, working hard. You should remember the words of the Lord Jesus. It is more blessed to give than to receive. It is more blessed to give than to receive, but we need to help those in need by working hard. We need to work hard to become generous. It's like a muscle. It doesn't happen by accident. You don't wake up one day and say, God, I choose to be generous. No, you need to change things in your life and lifestyle moments. You need to put into action what God has placed in your heart, just like a muscle. You don't grow Arnie-sized muscles by just thinking nice thoughts about your muscles. You got to get to the gym. You got to eat healthily, etc., and lift those weights. Work hard. No pain, no gain. You got to train your generosity heart to go through the pain barrier of selfishness and say, not what I can get, but what can I give? I want to change everything in my life to how can I be a generous man or woman of God today? You need to train to become excellent or a professional in giving and not just excellent and a professional and much easier to be the God that receives. You can say, I'm a professional receiver. I can receive so well. I can dance. I can sing. I can rejoice when I get gifts. But how about when you get known to be a guy or a woman that says, I'm a professional giver. I'm always looking to give. I can give of my time, of my prayer, of my efforts, my energy, my talents, my gifts, all of those. Be a giver the way God is to you and I today. So in closing, I want to read these two passages of scripture in Timothy. And I want to challenge you to listen to them and ask God, am I a person that lives generously today? Help me to start a good habit of being a generous giver of the very talents and resources God has given me so that I can make God famous in my life. 1 Timothy 6:6-10. Let's read this together. Yet true godliness with contentment is itself great wealth. After all, we brought nothing with us when we came into the world, and we can't take anything with us when we leave it. So if we have enough food and clothing, let us be content. But people who long to be rich fall into temptation and are trapped by many foolish and harmful desires that plunge them into ruin and destruction. For the love of money is the root of all kinds of evil. And some people, craving money, have wandered from the truth and pierced themselves with many sorrows. Wow. Isn't that powerful? True godliness with contentment is itself great wealth. Why? Because it goes beyond the now. It starts to reach into the eternity, the very thing that God has put in yours and my heart. And in closing, I want to read this a little further on in 1 Timothy chapter 6 again, verse 17-19. It says this, teach those who are rich in this world. Let me stop there. All of us are rich. It's not just about money. Remember, generosity isn't just about your bank account. It's about everything. If everything belongs to God, it all belongs to Him, and we all have richness. So this is for all of us. Teach those who are rich in this world not to be proud and not to trust in their money, which is so unreliable. right? In your possessions, in your resources. Their trust should be in God, who richly gives us all we need for our enjoyment. Tell them to use their money to do good. They should be rich in good works and generous to those in need, always being ready to share with others. By doing this, they will be storing up their treasures as a good foundation for the future so that they may experience true life. Store up your treasures in heaven, ladies and gentlemen, by being a generous giver today. Assess your life and give it to Christ. God bless you all.